All right, you see the section. It is Kim, the crafty harlot. Now, we don't say that to bash her. We say that because that is what she defines. I welcome in my beautiful girlfriend, Kenya McIntosh. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Joshua Prophet.
That is good. That is good. It's another quality day, wouldn't you
Yes,
say?
it's my favorite kind of day.
It's your favorite kind of day. What? What
Yes.
made today so great?
Um, well, I got to work on everything that I feel like to work on. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to sit here with my boyfriend and talk
Oh,
about hot topics. So,
yeah, that's fire right there. I like that. All right, let's get into the hot topics. So, our first topic is Kim K an acceptable role model? So, Kenya, what do you have to say about that?
I think it depends what you're looking at. So,
That's an interesting perspective. Please dive in more.
of course. So, I think it depends. So, if you're looking, at a role model as someone who's morally morally high, strong in their walk with Christ, modest, all that good stuff. If you're looking at it that way, no. I would say no. But if you're looking at it like, oh, I wanna amp up my business game or amp up my marketing game
Right, right.
or I wanna be a boss chick, then yeah. I mean, sure. You could go that way.
That's interesting. So you're saying that there are attributes of Kim that you should model yourself after, like the way that she has conducted herself in business to grow. I think she's a billionaire now, and so that is not even if you are, leveraging. Some people say that she has no talent. It takes, a
Skill.
sophisticated
It takes
skill
skill, yeah.
to be able to build, $1 billion empire. So you can't take that lightly. But I do like what you said that, yeah, there are some behaviors of hers that are questionable, but she has built, $1 billion empire. And so that is what we're going to get into. If so, say she's not a good role model, right? So, well, we'll say that she is a good role model in some sense, but she's not in other senses. So what would be the ultimate role model? That's what we're going to get into. And I think 1 Corinthians 11:1 is a good definition of what we should be doing as Christians. It says, be imitators of me as I am of Christ. And I think this is Paul writing to the church of Corinthians saying, look, I am be like me because I'm trying to be like Christ. So if you're going to follow somebody, if you're going to follow a role model, you should be following somebody who is, following Christ, right? The best leaders, earthly leaders that you have are good followers as well. And ultimately, the person at the top that you are following should be Christ. And
Yeah.
so,
And just add some more context to
right.
it. Like the people of Corinth at that time,
They were
they
wilding.
yeah, they were wilding.
Yeah.
But also like the believers there, they didn't have the gospels like we have the gospels now. So they
Right.
didn't really know like Jesus or like how he walked and stuff.
Right. They were learning through the
Yeah,
apostles.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that's why Paul was like, be imitators of me because I knew Christ and I know how to act as a Christian.
No, that was great context because I didn't even think about that. But yeah, like those are people that yeah they're putting their belief in Christ, but they weren't directly affected. They didn't have like the canonization of the Bible and the scriptures readily available. They didn't have like the printing press, so they
Yep.
weren't going to get their 66 books. They were a lot of it was you had to go to like scribes or Pharisees to or go to the temple to get your reading and scripture, or it was word of mouth and through oral traditions that they learned much of this stuff. So no, that was great context. That was great context. And so this brings up a good question. So just kind of going back to the Kim K question. So a lot of people would say that she embodies, femininity, but I think there's a better version of femininity, like biblical femininity, that Christian women could, better resemble. So I'm gonna let you take over this one.
All
What
right.
would your definition of biblical femininity be?
Oh, my definition of biblical femininity
Femininity.
would be it's a combination of beauty, grace, and strength according to the principles intended and executed in the Bible. So I think it's important to define ourselves as Christ does and not as the world does. I think that's a big part that separates
Right.
biblical femininity from what we see now, like divine femininity and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Oh, so define yourself as Christ does. It's almost like, yeah, be in the world, but don't be of the world in a
Right.
sense. Okay. Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that.
And like with biblical femininity, it's like how you carry yourself. A lot of it, like we can go into Proverbs 31 too. And
Oh, let's definitely get into that.
let's get
But
into
not
that.
not yet. Well,
Not yet.
you can
Okay.
expand just a second, but we'll get
Okay.
into that.
Okay. So just before I, get in there, but a really cool part about like Proverbs 31 is like they don't go into her appearance at all. So I think that really helps us embody like, okay, femininity is a lot about character and less about like how we look. Like it
Right,
plays
right.
a role, but it's not like the main factor. So
It's that character that affects your behavior.
yeah.
'Cause at the end of the day, so of course, like your behaviors are the fruits that you're producing out to the world, but that fruit is a representation of how strong like the seed like is inside of you, right? So like your faith is a representation of your faith in God, right? It's same thing. Like what are your character is going to embody like who you are as a person, and that really shows through in your behaviors.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like some characteristics before we get into Proverbs 31 would be like being relational and nurturing and soft, vulnerable, beautiful on the inside, also taking care of yourself on the outside, and being responsive and virtuous.
I like that. I like that. That is really good. So let's go into Proverbs 31. I didn't put it up in the slides, but I did ask you to talk about it just a little bit, just to give us a little taste, and maybe we'll expand on this in a later video.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so Proverbs 31, this is one of the I'm well, okay, let's back up. So, I'm a big proponent of like working backwards. So like
okay,
as a woman, if you know you want to be a mom, you know you want to be a wife, you know you want to do it God's way biblically,
right,
Proverbs 31 is like the best place to start
hmm
because it shows how she put God first, she feared the Lord,
hmm
she was a hard worker, but she also tended to her family. So I think those things about Proverbs 31 is amazing um, things to add into your life.
right. Now, does that mean that a woman needs to stay at home
No, not
and like
necessarily.
just take care of the house? Like, because I think that's what a lot of people
Yeah,
are fighting against. It's like I don't want to be
a stay-at-home
submissive
mom.
because
Yeah.
that means I'm going to have to be a doormat essentially and
Right.
do whatever the man tells me to do. So, what would you say to like women like who are in of that mindset and thinking the two they can't be like independent and be, Proverbs 31.
Yeah. So the Proverbs 31 woman was she had her house in order. So
Mm,
it's like, yeah, she still went out and worked. She did a lot. Like she sold stuff. She went to the market. She would sell things.
mhm.
She made things, but she had her house in order. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away is like, is God, home, work. So she
Right,
was
right.
very good at like doing that. So you can have your own thing. You can do your thing, but you need to, you know,
Right. It's all
have your
about
ducks
the
in a row.
order. And I think that's where, people get misconstrued with the word submission. So I mean, even men will take it to be like, well, submission means that the woman has to do whatever I say and she's up under me. When
Mm-hmm.
in actuality, submission is more of like the order so that because marriage is like a business, right? So if you want to come together in the eyes of God, and in holy matrimony, like you have to run it like a business. Like you're coming together generally to have kids and to foster the next generation. Well, God has a perfect system in place and there's an order to it, and he's set men as, the heads of the household, the leaders, the people that are, you know, what you have a good analogy where you're saying like this a car analogy where
Oh,
the
oh yeah, yeah,
men are
yeah. The
yeah
men are the steering wheel.
uh-huh
The women are like the mirrors.
Right. So the men are like kind of leading you where you're going.
Yeah.
But the women have your back. They have your six. They're kind of holding,
Yeah, making
everything
sure you're
down,
still, in the line,
staying
not
in the
about to
lane.
hit nothing.
Right. And
Yeah.
and I think that's what a good woman does. A good woman, elevates a, a good man. Right. But a bad woman,
You're going off the road.
yeah, swerving. You'll be off in the boonies somewhere, like just craziness. So
Yeah.
this brings me to my next question. Should you deal with women like Kim K?
You're asking me.
Well, what is your opinion? I'll give my opinion on this.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So if I was talking to my son,
Mhm.
I have my little me, that's a boy version. I'd be like, listen, what's your goal? At that point, I would have raised my son to be like, I want to be married. So I would tell him, okay, well, if your goal is to be married, your goal is to have a cooperative wife
Right.
and have your kids, all that good stuff, family life. I would tell him, no, you probably should not. You should not deal with women like Kim K. Like that's just gonna get you off the road,
Right.
put you in a situation similar to Kanye, most likely.
No, exactly like Kanye. Like, or any of the other men she's dated. Did you know she's
Yeah, that's
been
true.
married like Kanye was her third divorce?
Yeah.
I didn't know that because I knew about Chris Humphries, and then when I was looking it up, I forgot that she was married like when she was super young
Yep.
to, I forgot who it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
yep.
I saw the list of guys that she had been with, and a couple that she was supposedly had been with, and it's just like, all right, like, why did men keep falling for this trap?
Because she's beautiful.
No, yeah, I mean she's a very attractive woman, but it's just like, why did they keep thinking that it would be different with them?
I think it's the same way when like girls go after the bad guy and they're like, oh, I'm gonna change him.
Yeah, I guess it is the same. I guess. Well, I think men. One, if you're not like a very super strong man who's just willing to go his own way, then they kind of get caught up in wanting to be, that dark knight that comes and sweeps the girl off the feet.
Trying to save her.
Yeah, trying to be a hero. And J. Cole said, "Don't save her. She don't want to be saved." And now Kanye's got 4 kids and they're divorced. Prayerfully, they're able to mend the relationship ultimately. But if not, then hopefully, I think they're doing a pretty good job. I haven't co-parenting. There hasn't been any indication that there's been, other than Kanye not being able to go to his kid's birthday party, which I mean, but that was kind of in the middle of like the actual divorce, so a little bit different of a story. But yeah, I would tell my kids absolutely not. Do not go for a woman like Kim Kardashian because her history is.
Oh, that's a big thing with guys too.
Yeah, it's like her history shows you exactly who she is, and if those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. And so if you don't understand a woman's history, that is why, guys want women generally with like lower body counts, preferably virgins, right? Because it's like, if she's been, just running around with all these different guys, then chances are she's not going to stay with you, right? She's still going to get that itch. And so even if you satisfy her longer than any other guy in the past,
like,
unless she's truly, changed her mind and turned from her ways, and you could see that in her life, she's just going to fall back onto old habits. And that is something that you do not want. And you definitely don't want to be beta. Definitely don't want to be beta. So stay away from them. The Bible has a really good verse. This is in Proverbs 7, and this is just speaking straight facts. And this is where we got the title. It actually says the crafty harlot and what you need to do to avoid it. So Proverbs 7:24-27 says, "Now therefore, listen to me, my children. Pay attention to the words of my mouth. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways," talking about the harlot. "Do not stray into her path." Don't stray. Stop going to her. She's already showed you exactly who she is. Don't stray into her path, for she has cast down many wounded. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? I mean, this is fire. I mean, this is fire. "For she has cast down many wounded, and all who were slain by her were strong men. That means even the strong men. Did you read Samson?
Right. I was just thinking about that. Delilah. Yeah.
Delilah just went snip, snip. All his strength gone because of a girl. And I saw something the other day, and it was a panel of people talking, and the guy was like, if you want to get to a man,
Oh,
you
yeah.
send a woman, right? Because look at Eve. Serpent got to the woman, right? Corrupted the man. And so even if you're a strong man, you have to be cognizant of the craftiness of these women. You have to be able to vet a woman. That is why, strong males and strong females who are good at judging character need to be in your life, so that when females come into your life, or females, when men come into your life, you have good people who can tell you
And vet
if
for you.
that person is a person of good character, if that person is striving. And ideally, Christians shouldn't be unequally yoked. So you should be, finding somebody who has, that good Christian value, who's striving. Let me keep going. So her house is the way to hell. That's crazy. Kanye went through and is going through literal hell.
Yeah.
Descending to the chambers of death. Because hell leads to death. And so this is just a warning for all of you guys that don't fall into the clutches of the crafty harlot, because these girls are crafty. Some of these girls aren't even being crafty. They're telling you exactly what you're going to do. Like Brittany Reiner.
They're showing you all on Instagram.
Brittany Reiner wrote a whole book about how to play men, and men are still just like, not necessarily with her. I'm sure there's still men that, fall for her and go for her. So yeah, men, stay away from the crafty harlot. This is my last word. This is in conclusion. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, going back to the biblical femininity. But she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones.